Alright, I'm starting to build up this door. I had this one on the car and just took it back off to start transferring parts. I've got to hot wire this regulator to get it off the glass, but ran into an issue where the original door here has two beveled holes here for the actuator and one back behind here behind the seal. The replacement door here does not have those two beveled holes, and that actuator and latch assembly bolts in here, here, and here. This hole is not in the other door. There's no hole right there. That's okay though, we can put a plug or just leave it. No big deal there, but I've got to have these two holes to be able to mount the original actuator. If I don't use this one, I'll have to use the one out of the other door that came with the replacement door, and it's different. Connector's different. I'd have to look up the wiring diagram, make sure I splice on the other connector to make it fit it. Then if you ever have to replace that one, you got an oddball in the door, and you may not remember what car this came off of, which actuator you need, so it's best to just put all the original parts in here and make it work. So I took a pencil tracing and did this on the other door. Laid this on here, traced out all the outline of all these holes and recesses, and this edge of the cutout and this cutout edge here for the actual striker to go through into the latch. So that gave me a pattern to transfer to this door. I laid this over here. I marked the centers with a scribe. Marked the centers where I need these holes with a scribe after I got the tracing done. And I laid it on here and centered this hole up to this one. Centered that up, put a drill bit through it that fit perfectly in that hole. Then I lined these edges up and the one here on the striker area. Once I got everything in position, I took the scribe and went back to these centers right here, and I marked the paint behind these two places. So that's this mark, this mark. I also took this and measured the centers of these. I just went around the two bolts. I put some longer bolts in here just so I could get to it. Then I subtracted one bolt diameter. That gave me the center points. And that worked out. Math worked out perfectly on that, or as close as I'm going to get it anyway. I'm down into the hundredths, if not thousandths, of precision on this. I think I measured 3.28 on that, and it's about what I was getting on just the measurements from this, maybe 3.25 or something like that. Went over here and did the same thing with the holes and tried to measure these as close as I could get them with the jaws of the caliper down inside there, and then added back a bolt diameter. It all worked out. So I'm going to go ahead and put two holes here. I think the best thing is going to be to punch it. I'm going to use this punch here just to where I can get just big enough hole for the bolt to go through it. And the actuator actually has some beveled holes in it. So what I'll try to do is get maybe some older bolts. I may have to use the ones that came out of it here, but I'll try to draw it down. Once I get these in there into the actuator or into the latch, I'll just tighten these down to draw this metal down into this shape and recess these as much as I can get them to go down in there. That's the plan for now. If I can't get that to work, I'll have to do something else. Maybe try to get a bolt in a socket and just press it down with something that shape. That's the plan for now. I'm going to try that. I'm trying not to have to repaint this in here. I don't know if this is going to show or not. I need to check trim panel. I don't think it does show. But I may end up having to just repaint this section. If it does show, I may just have to break it on this edge or something, but it's not something I noticed until I went to put this actuator in. I had this door way before I had the car, so I had no way to compare even then. But I'm going to get these holes in here and we'll see how this works out. Alright, I got close. I got the screw in the bottom of it. This one was just about dead on. I had to slide it out maybe a millimeter to the left. I was able to get the screw down in it, and I just tightened it down and it drew it right in perfectly. So that one looks just about factory there. Can't really tell any difference. I'll run this one back in to show you. Get this one snugged back up. And this sheet metal was flat, so I just drew it down into the shape of that latch. So now it's flush. This one for some reason is off about 1/8 of an inch. But that's about as close as I was expecting to get anyway. Just having to do a pencil tracing. I could have marked the hole through this from the bottom through this opening in the for the handle. But there's no way to actually drill it from in there, and I couldn't reach it with my punch either, so I had to drill it. This is about as close as I could have expected to get anyway, so I'm going to just file this back, or maybe just use the step drill like I did to enlarge it. I started this with an 1/8 inch bit, but I'll just run it out a little bit till I can get the screw in it, and then we'll just have to leave it a slotted hole, which is perfectly fine. This will locate it, and that's just going to be another reinforcing screw there to hold it tight. So no big deal, but at least I was able to get this one almost perfect. Still had to slide it a little bit, but it's not no big deal because it pulled it down in there and hid everything anyway. I'm going to go ahead and just run this one out, get that screw in there and draw it down, make sure everything fits, and probably just do some touch-up paint on this. I think it's going to be alright. Got to get to the inside too where there's some bare metal. Alright, I'm getting ready to put the filler on the trunk lid there on the M5. I'm going to be using this Fiber Tech. I've got this Everglass. It says short strand fiberglass, but you can't see the strands. It's I've called them about it, and they tell me that it's called a milled fiberglass. You can't even see the fibers in it, so I'm not sure why they advertise short strand. This is actual short strand. It's got strands inside it that you can see, just barely, but at least you can see them. It's purple. I'm going to be using this since that spoiler is going to have so much pressure on that one spot, and when you slam the trunk, it's going to try to flex that area. Plus, it's going to have a bolt or a stud coming through with a nut on it and tighten down to it, so I may have to put a bigger washer behind it just to spread the load out, keep it from cracking anything, but I think this will work. I was going to show you the application of this stuff. I had a customer stop by right in the middle of me mixing it, so I had to stop, talk to them. Went on really smooth, but you can see how it's got the texture to it that you get out of the short strand filler typically. Laid out really nice. Left myself a nice little edge there. Be able to build up that peak. And I'll just need a little bit of regular filler on the back and then some to skim over this. Came out nice and flat. My first time trying this stuff out. I'm liking it right now anyway. We'll see how it sands. That's the next project out there. I got that Toyota Venza that was just dropped off. Got to replace both bumpers on it and one of the tail lights from 2 separate accidents. I'll be back when I get ready to sand this. I'm probably going to try to grade it down just a little bit before it gets too hard, just to get a head start on it. Once this stuff sets up for a few hours, it gets nice and hard and you can hardly sand it. At least with a block, you got to do it with a DA or straight line. I may get the straight line sander out. Well, I wasn't able to grade it, didn't get time, I had to put it on right before I had to go somewhere, so it's rock hard now. It's been sitting here for 2 or 3 days. I'm going to hit it with some 40 grit on the straight line, just knock it all the way down flat. Then I'll hit it with some 80 grit on DA, then I'll go over it with regular filler. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting that down. I'll be back when I got it flat. That's some pretty hard stuff there. That's pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and get it a little bit further down to where I can start seeing some metal in here, where I know that it's still okay. And after that, I'll feather it out with DA back into my metal into here, where I know I've got good straight metal. And then I'll fill it over with regular filler. I'm going to hit this a little bit more. This is an older piece of 40, but I'm going to go ahead and finish it off on this. I'll come back with some regular filler in a little while here. Alright, the regular body filler is on top of the fiberglass now. Went ahead and put my marks back on here. Drilled these through. The original hole is still under there, so that's just located where it is approximately. And I'll just take the filler back out of the hole to expose it with a step drill. I'll put this through here just to take the filler out. Over here, I marked the center of this one. I'm going to take that filler out, and I measured off that hole to get this one. I just about lost this entire line here from sanding all the paint back. So I just extended this one down, measured from that hole down to here, 1 7/8 inches, which is the stud spacing on the spoiler. So I'm going to go ahead and get these 3 original ones cut back out to where they're the original size, and then I'll finish drilling this one here. This is where the new metal is. Alright, I got it drilled out. I just used the step drill to take the filler out of the hole. So these are the size they were originally. And I went ahead and did this before blocking this out, just because I'm waiting on the filler to harden up. You could do it afterwards. Really shouldn't make any difference. But since this stuff's still hardening up on me, I want to go ahead and do that, just to not have any downtime. That way this just got marked and drilled while it was hardening up, and now that I've got it done, I can come back and block it. Get a little bit down here too, where I had some fiberglass on this peak line. Took most of that out, but I've got some filler over it just to finish it off. I'm probably going to go a little bit bigger on this diameter here, but I need to double check that I even need to. I don't want to take any more material out than I have to. It's essentially done. Just need to block this area out here, and then just sand the entire trunk lid, basically from here up. Don't really need much primer in here, but I do need to put a couple of coats over this original paint just to seal it up. So I may end up putting just 2 coats over the entire trunk and coming back just in these bodywork areas and doing a 3rd coat. I only need 2 down here. May end up putting 3 on the entire top just to have enough area to block here, or enough thickness to block in this area, because I'm going to have 3 out into here anyway, so I might as well just put a 3rd coat across the top.